Alrighty. Well, it is currently 7:42 a.m. I should have gone to bed, but I wanted to finish getting my vaults done on all my guys. And now I'm also making this. And the main reason why I kind of fucked my sleep schedule is because I'm like, you know what? Gabe's going to be down for like 10 hours tomorrow anyway. Doesn't really matter. So why not do my favorite thing to do, and apparently your favorite thing to listen to as well, is talk about Warrior getting nerfed. Wee! Yay! Oh man. Uh, I don't know. Like honestly, it's almost comical at this point, but let's try to be a little more realistic about the whole thing and try and actually be a bit more grounded than see something like 8% buff to Frost DK and just go, what the is happening? Well, they've got to be out of their minds, right? So let's actually have a more mild-mannered discussion about it, because while being speculatory and overreacting is fun, it's not really conducive to a decent discussion. So, as you can see with these changes, Frost DK is getting an 8% buff in single target and a 6-7% buff in AoE. And that's with the changes that they are getting to Deathbringer. So if we go to the PTR, we can see their hero talent. And we can see what's different. Let's see. But basically, what I think is actually happening. I mean, we're not going to talk about this. What I think is actually happening and why we're seeing these buff numbers, and you go, but Arcane is crazy and Frosty K is crazy, and they're buffing Deathbringer Frosty K. Why are they doing this? It's crazy. It's mainly because the way the spec actually functions is not great. I can't speak too much to Arcane Mage because I just don't play Mage. But for Frosty K, the variance of your damage is actually kind of disgusting. Because how it currently works is if you get lucky enough, every time when you cast Exterminate, it has a chance to reapply Reaper's Mark to the target. And Exterminate, when you take the talent that it has a second Scythe charge, not only does an AoE cleave, it does a big single target hit. So if you get a lot of resets essentially with the Reaper's Scythe mark, you're doing infinite damage. But if you get no resets, you do like no damage. Like the amount of difference between getting those resets and not getting those resets is so insanely high that the spec actually in variance did not function well at all. It does big damage, but the actual function of it was really improper and way too RNG. So, with that being the case, why we're seeing these buffs is there's what I'm at least assuming is why we're seeing these buffs, especially to these more played specs, right? To Arcane Mage and Frosty K, is what they're going to do is they are fixing these specs and fixing these hero talents so they're way more like static, right? And then after they have the data of how these things are blasting with the more static nature of their hero talents, then they can be nerfed to a more realistic level. And right now is still a fine time to do nerfs like that. If it was 3 or 4 more weeks later into the season where these big keys have already been done and they didn't do, if they take, so basically what I'm saying is if these changes are okay, but if they take too long to make actual balance adjustments around the gameplay of these new changes, then it'll be a problem. Especially when you talk about like higher keys, because what eventually can happen is if the class remains this strong, right, with these AoE and single target buffs, if it remains this strong, and does not get nerfed fast enough, people will get enough gear that if you nerf the class, you will then not be able to do the keys, right? If we're talking about like Mythic Plus, you will or even Raid, you will not be able to do the amount of damage the class can even do if you get more gear if they wait too long. So realistically, what needs to happen is they're going to make these changes. They're going to make the specs way more consistent, which is what they're doing with Frosty K. So now the Deathbringer, and why it's also buffing Blood. So the Deathbringer talent tree is just way more consistent, right? But with that consistency, they can bring actual balance to it. Because something that's actually problematic, like I said, because of that almost slot machine nature of the Frosty K resets, is simply the fact that if you didn't get resets and they made these change and they completely nerfed the class really heavily, you could essentially find yourself doing way less damage than you should be, which is why I think they're making these changes, and then they're going to be nerfing these classes, because that variance is so high, it is just really unhealthy for the gameplay and the classes themselves. But that is why I think we're seeing these buffs to Arcane Mage and Frost. I mean, that's like the headcanon I have. That's like me sitting here and rationalizing why Frosty K is going to be another like 2.5 million ahead of me instead of 2 million ahead of me as Warrior in overall in keys, because I don't know, man. It's not 2 million, right? It's not that egregious, but like still, right? Like the rich get richer, and you go, what's going on? But I think that's what's happening and what they're going to be doing. And bringing people back for the anniversary event. A lot of people might even come back and play more during the anniversary event, means that they'll actually have more data as well to balance these things on. I'm happy. Honestly, one of the things I'm happiest about most about these changes to like Outlaws getting a buff, because I like playing Outlaw, but one of the craziest changes is the fact that Rogue is now able to press Feint off the global cooldown, which means that the gameplay is going to feel so much better, and you're not going to worry about GCD locking yourself while also needing to use a defensive. So you might be able to resource starve yourself so you can't defensive, but you won't be able to actually GCD lock yourself out of a defensive. It's just a way better gameplay change for some of these classes and specs. We're not sure how crazy, like they said, Shaman's uncertain. We have no idea. So we'll see how things are implemented. I don't know. From what I saw, the Shaman buffs were fucking crazy, so we'll see. Arms Warrior, once again, is catching another stray because of Fury Warrior. They made some changes. So Odin's Fury initial Thundersword damage reduced by 20% versus 8 targets, or 3 to 5% overall in Mythic Plus. It's technically a neutral change in single target because they're buffing our base kit of Raging Blow and Bloodthirst. But like I talked about, them trying to make things more consistent so they can actually balance it correctly for Arcane Mage and Frosty K, Warrior kind of needs the same treatment, because right now what's making Warrior good in Raid is incredibly unhealthy for the class as a whole. Because, well, I mean, honestly, the only reason that it's very unhealthy is because of fight design, right? There are so many fights, like you look at Bloodbound Horror, Rashinan, Brood Twister. Technically, you can say Silken Court, but the ads don't really matter that much on there. But even the last boss of Queen Ensurek, those all have ads that are very important to die and need to die very fast. For example, I'm currently progressing on Mythic Ensurek, and the Silken Tombs and the little baby spiders need to die. Like, legitimately, they need to die. Because if they do not die, you blow up. Your raid blows up. And on Mythic, a lot of the fight is controlling raid movement and area denial. So if you play it incorrectly, like let's say those spiders get out of control and they don't die fast enough, if they start running all over the place, you legitimately will not have room to finish the fight, because they also drop that gloom puddle that just spreads throughout the encounter. So it's very problematic for a class like Fury Warrior, where almost all of our damage is centralized in these like silken tombs and ads, and we don't really do boss damage, and it's actually design wise really problematic. It gives us a job, right? One thing you can talk about on the flip side of that of it being a positive thing is that in terms of raid design, it has given Fury Warrior a job, right? It has given us something we are better at than everybody else that nobody can compete with. However, with the 5 target capping, people are really going to start competing with us, because one thing this change does is you can say, oh, well, it's the initial damage, right? But when you target cap the damage, it also affects the dot afterwards as well. So Odin's Fury and Thunderous Roar are going to be doing a lot less damage to the to all of the ads in these important ad fights. So we're going to be relying on our just base cleave. Honestly, we're probably going to see some literally egregious levels of Frosty K damage on fights like Brood Twister, and potentially, I don't know about Queen Ansurek, just because it's still of more of a burst nature, but I feel like Brood Twister is going to be so wild that they might have to repartition Brood Twister itself after Frosty K and like Mage get nerfed again, because it'll simply be out of control. Because Warrior, while they fill that niche, is probably going to fall behind on Brood Twister, actually. All we really do right now is burst AoE, and because our burst AoE is getting capped even harder, we're really, really going to fall behind. But on the positive side, right, we're going to flip back to the positive side here. Why I think they're doing this, and why like we keep looking at all these AoE nerfs, is because they're going to fix or try to fix the class and realize the mistakes they've made, and then buff the class up to where it should be. So Warrior has really seen essentially a ton of nerfs. Every single patch has had a Warrior nerf in it, realistically. And I obviously feel terrible about that. I'm not happy with it. Warrior is next to unplayable when it comes to high keys and Mythic Plus. And I don't mean unplayable as in like, oh, you can't play it. But realistically, if you bring a Warrior, you're handicapping yourself. The other 2 DPS have to do so much more damage to carry the Warrior, and Warriors do not bring any utility at all that make them worth bringing ever for any reason. So why would you ever bring a Warrior when you could bring a Frosty K, when you could bring a Mage, when you could bring an Augmentation Evoker, when you could bring a Boomkin, when you could, I mean, shit, when you could bring a Hunter? There is no reason to take a Warrior in any key above like a 10, because anyone can do 10s, but even then, there's like no reason to bring a Warrior, which sucks for me because I want to play my Warrior. But what I'm going to have to do is gear my Frosty K so I can just play Frosty K, and then they'll finally buff my Warrior so then I can play, so that I can actually be invited to Pugs and play the video game in Pugs on my Warrior, because they'll actually buff it. That's at least what I think they're doing. Because by hard target capping us, realistically, what this means is if we're really going to be target capped at 5, we need to do the most damage at 5. I mean, the most damage at 5, which is what I hope is coming. Do I think that's going to happen? Probably not. But what I hope is that that our class is going to be buffed to be way better than it is currently, and it's going to be buffed to be way healthier than it is currently. But like I said, that's also a matter of opinion, right? To me, almost my primary game mode is Mythic Plus. I mean, I'm a Mythic Raider, but I spend more time doing Mythic Plus than I spend Mythic raiding. And so that's real. If you just look at it like numerically, I spend most of my primary time doing Mythic Plus, not even Mythic raiding. So that's why I care so much about Mythic Plus stuff, because I spend so much time doing it. It's going to be very weird. The only thing I really hope with these changes is that what they're doing is trying to fix classes like Beast Mastery, for example. Dark Ranger was obviously not finished. Obviously not finished. It was weird, it was clunky, it was annoying, it didn't make a lot of sense. You were like there's a lot of weird stuff with Dark Ranger where I don't know if it's still in there, but Beast Cleave lasts 6 seconds. And there's a talent in there that you can only get your AoE Shadow Pop if and it has a 6-second internal cooldown. So you'd have to let your Beast Cleave fall off. You wouldn't upkeep Beast Cleave. You would literally let Beast Cleave fall off so then you could use it again to get that additional shadow. It was so fucking clunky and gross and disgusting. It was obviously not done. Obviously, Dark Ranger was not done. And now that we're getting these changes and Dark Ranger's getting this big complete overhaul in its looks and its visuals, it's very obvious that that class was not done. But now that it's going to be there, now it's going to be done, now it's going to be the way they think it should be, then now they can actually make Dark Ranger what they want it. They can balance the class around it. It can be way healthier. Things like Basilisk Collar that were kind of really holding Beast Mastery specific back, that got nerfed, and now everything else is working around it. So we'll see, right? We'll see. But what I'm really hoping is that these changes, while they seem egregious, is realistically them going, all right, man, we need to ground everything to where everything works and is consistent the way we want, and then we can buff and nerf from there to make everything the way it should be. And the only concern I have is that they're not going to be fast enough at doing that. So realistically, I'm hoping that's the idea. I just hope that they are going to be fast enough at making these changes that it's going to be a positive impact for the community overall, because right now the community is certainly not happy about the way things are going. They're not happy about how Mythic Plus is. I don't know if that has to deal with the guile. I don't know if it probably has something to deal with the literal design of the dungeons and the difficulty of the dungeons, and that the dungeons are so difficult for players in a pug environment that they simply are not able to complete them because they're so difficult at a base level. And then when they're made harder, it makes players way more selective, and that's why we're getting, oh, I have to play a Resto Shaman, or I don't get to play the game, or I have to play a Frost DK, or I have to play this, or I have to play that, because they're so good and so omnipresent. Also, one of the things that makes Frost DK like really fucking good is this little talent right here. I'll show you. Where is the stamina? This little talent right here. 20% bonus stamina as a tier 1 talent. 20%. This class is ungodly levels of tanky, and we're not even counting the fact that they have that this class at baseline has Icebound Fortitude, damage reduction. It has Lichborn, another damage reduction and leech. It has 40-second anti-magic shell that makes the application of debuffs either A, not happen, or the absorb shield is like 4 to 5 million health, right? Or they even have a talent that lets them remove harmful magical effects when they activate it, even though it's an increased cooldown. Like, they have all of these tools, and they even have like Death Strike for if they actually get low from something, and Death Strike's healing is based on the amount of damage you've taken. So even in hierarchies, they scale incredibly well, because the more damage you take, the more damage you heal. No other class fucking does that. And they have this extra stamina and AMZs. This class is insane. But you look at this and you see 20% stamina, 1 talent point, very top of their fucking talent list. And then you go to a class like Warrior. And in Warrior, to get 10% stamina, we have to come all the way down into our tier 3 talents to get 10% stamina. And if we take this talent, we just lose damage. Every single talent on this row is throughput, and it is required to take. And if we take this talent, we lose throughput and we lose damage, especially when our damage isn't that high. It's crazy. It's the same thing I complained about with Paladin, where Sanctified Plates is just bloated and insane and disgustingly strong on top of all of their extra passive avoidance, and they just get to take it in their talent trees. And Warriors lost that. We lost being tanky. DK has their fucking 20% stamina talent that costs 1 point here in their talent tree. Right fucking here. I would lose Bounding Stride in a heartbeat for 20% stamina for 1 talent point. Insane. Insane levels of tanky, man. That's another reason why DK is so crazy right now. Because they are literally unkillable. They just have more health than everybody else. Their increased health pool allows them to take more damage. And the more damage they take, they just heal off with Death Strike. It is absolutely insane what all of these other classes have, and then how actually down bad and terrible the Warrior talent tree is. I'm going back to it. We're going back to Doom and Warrior, man. We're just going back to it because I feel like it. I can't believe that they gave us this talent rework reshuffle when literally all they did was shift Spear over, move Shockwave to here, and then put Endurance Training down here, right? Why can't Endurance Training be up here where Bitter Immunity is, and it's a 1 point talent, and we get like 15 to 20% stamina off of it? Wouldn't that be sick? Nobody takes Bitter Immunity. No one cares about this fucking thing. But we got to keep it because they just needed a talent point in there. Like, when we look at arms, let's look over at arms. Finishing Blows used to literally just be part of Strength of Arms. It used to literally be part of this talent. This isn't even a new talent. They took an old talent, ripped it in half, removed a talent, and put the half of a talent here. This is half of a talent, and we have to spend a talent point to get it. It is. Sweeping Strikes is still on the global cooldown. Rogues now get to press Feint off the GCD, yet we're still pressing Sweeping Strikes on the global. You know? And it's like, ugh. If they don't have a real rework for Warrior coming in, I'm going to be depressed. Because we didn't get shit. And everyone's saying, I don't know how many comments I've seen in here, in otherwhere. Oh, they brought Warriors for the race to world first. Oh, they brought blah, blah, blah. Oh, they're doing, even Max himself, Mr. Maximum Liquid Arthur himself said, bro, if we had fucking Trill, we wouldn't have brought a second Warrior. We'd have had Trill in there. Obviously, Trill is a crazy player. He's an incredible player. But even in comp-wise, they weren't even going to run 2 Warriors comp-wise if they had the choice. Because Trill had to go play AWC, right? And Max didn't want to take that away from him because he knew that Trill liked that and it mattered. You know what I mean? So, like, realistically, on the end boss of the raid, they were only going to run 1 Warrior anyway. And the only reason we saw egregious shit running like 3 Warriors on fucking Brood Twister for these raids is because Warriors' burst AoE was so overtuned that they could just fit 3 of them in there. Also because, I mean, having an extra rally is nice, even though rally is bad in dungeons because it should be 20% in dungeons. Just like Darkness got the treatment where it's a 30% chance to dodge in dungeons instead of 20% chance. But, you know, just another thing that other classes get that Warriors aren't allowed to have, even though we don't even have half the utility as those classes. You know, just Warrior things. But I don't know, dude. Like you saw in the first part of the video, I'm trying to be very optimistic about the changes they're making. I'm really trying to be optimistic. I'm trying to understand. I'm trying to see why they're making changes. I think why they're nerfing our AoE is because they realize how unhealthy it is design-wise So they're trying to get us to a point where our class is actually feels way better to play, and we don't feel like we're playing around a minute and a half burst window and hit like a wet noodle outside of it, right? That's really why I feel that's what I feel like they're doing and they're working towards. I just hope they're way faster with it, and I really hope 11.0.7 the actual warrior rework is coming, because obviously Dark Ranger wasn't ready, and they're fixing and changing that and changing all of that. The Death Knight talent, Deathbringer, isn't what they wanted exactly, so now they're fixing and changing that. Then they can nerf the class. Like, I'm trying to be optimistic. I am trying to be optimistic, but week after week, nerf after nerf, Paladin is getting another talent rework, and we haven't even seen our first. Mage changes, Ret changes, Paladin changes, DK changes, and we are just, even though we did okay in the raid, because we were overtuned for burst AoE, and burst AoE was what most of the fights had in them. Now that our burst AoE is gone, we better get something, man, because right now, Warrior is probably one of the worst classes in the game. I put Warrior behind Shadow Priest, honestly, at this point. And that's saying something. But yeah, I could continue to rant, but I don't know what more else I can say. I want to be optimistic. I really hope that these changes in what they're doing are just the cement groundwork for what they have coming. But please, please fix our class, man. Please. We're actually so close, right? Like, moving bitter immunity out, putting endurance training up here, giving us a new talent down here that might be something interesting as like a throughput choice. Maybe one's better for Fury, one's better for arms, right? I don't know. Something interesting to pick down here than just this talent every time, because we can't take this because it's not throughput. Everything in our talent tree is throughput. We generate so much rage and fury that overwhelming rage is basically a necessity and a requirement. Because if we don't, excuse me, because if we don't take it, we end up overcapping hundreds and hundreds of rage. Not only because our spec uses crushing blow even at rage cap while we're enraged, but because we are generating so much rage as fury. Honestly, I really think they need to make Rampage hit hard as fuck. Rampage needs to actually hit hard as fuck, and I think Fury needs the rage rework that Arms got. And on top of that, they need to rework our talent tree. So we have better options, better talents. We can take fucking survivability talents instead of having to take pure throughput, because that's all we got. Ugh. That was yapping, man. But I wanted to yap because now I can sleep, and now you can watch me yap while the servers are down, and then be like, yeah, I get it. I don't know, dog. What do you think? Because I'm not trying to be the guy that's like, I'm trying not to be a fucking Moonkin, dude. My class sucks, my class sucks, my class sucks, my class sucks. We brought it to the Race to World. Moonkin was in the Race to World first, but we're only in the Race to World first because a Bear Druid wasn't good and Resto Druid wasn't good. My class sucks, my class sucks. Oh look, they have fucking Moonkin all over the fucking place. No. I'm trying not to be a fucking Moonkin. Man. But I feel like if I don't complain and I don't say things and I don't say how I feel about the state of my class and the state of how in shambles it is and how archaic it is and how low effort goes into it, right? Like, literally, they just took, this is the same talent that was post Shockwave down when it was down here. The same talent, they just took it right in there. Shockwave's only a 2-second stun. You're just, even if you reduce it and it goes to 25 seconds, you're just DRing your own. You're just DRing the worst AoE stun in the game. Leg sweep, Chaos Nova, if the enemy's undead, Wake of Ashes, like all of them. Way better AoE stops. I mean, Cap Totem, all way better AoE stops. Because if we hit Shockwave, we are just DRing the good stuns in the game, right? And that's just what our class is right now. Our class is, other classes can do, we have a little bit of an option, but other classes just do it better. And one thing I really, really don't want to say is I really have to wonder how these changes, like the endurance training and the very, very low stun on Shockwave, and how intimidating Roar is still somehow 5 target capped. How the fuck is this? How does Priest have Psychic Scream and we have this thing and it's 5 target capped? 5 target. Our fucking CC is 5 target capped. This button is worthless garbage. Especially considering the AoE CC nerfs to Mythic Plus and the recasting. Worthless garbage. And it's still the same. It's all still the same. It is just depressing. And even talents that used to be good, like Warlord's Torment, are now literally so bad, you don't even take it. Like these Blade Master, like these talents are so bad, you don't even take them, and you run Roar at 45 seconds just so you can Skull Splitter. That's how bad our capstones are. Our capstones are so bad that we're using Skull Splitter as a reason to take it. Take a talent point down here. It's wild. Like you go, oh, 45 seconds, like... I see 45-second cooldown and I go, okay, Roar at 45 seconds. What do DKs get at 45 seconds? Reaper's Mark, Remorseless Winter, Pillar of Frost, and then they can obliterate Cleave and do insane amounts of damage every 45 seconds, but now we have a 45-second target-capped Roar and Odin's Fury that are going to do... Like, literally, man, a target-capped Roar and Odin's Fury together are going to do less damage than fucking Caustic Spatter, a single talent point within the tier 1 talents of Rogue. It takes us like 4 points in Warrior, right? 1 talent point here versus 4 talent points. Actually 5, even with Titanic Rage. Odin's Fury, Titanic Rage, Bloodborne, Thunderous Roar, Thunderous Words and Uproar. A single talent point by a rogue beats all of those talents by itself. By itself, man. I have to cut the video off, or I'm just going to keep going. I have to cut it off. And so I do apologize about being the negative Nancy towards the end, but I have to speak how I feel. And unfortunately, my class feels like shit. And the funny thing, the real funny thing, is even though my class feels terrible, if it just did damage, I wouldn't care. That is the truth. That if my class at least did damage, like good damage, I wouldn't care. But it doesn't do good damage. It doesn't. Okay. I have to hit the stop record button. Bye-bye.